Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kirat Pandya. I'm a technical lead on partner engineering for machine learning at Google Cloud. And the topic we're going to cover today is how do you automate invoice management, right? Every business practically has invoices that they're either paying or sending out, and these are pieces of paper. And how do you automate that using machine learning? All right. So going back to the roots, why are we here? What is the goal? The goal at the end of the day for Google here is to democratize AI. We want to take all these bleeding edge innovations in artificial intelligence that our research teams, Google Brain, are coming up with, and making them available to your businesses, right? To make it so that instead of needing one of the thousands of data scientists globally, one of the millions of developers globally can then use the same technologies. That's the goal here. And with that in mind, the question we have to ask ourselves is, given the limited resources we have, every organization at the end has limited resources. How do we target our resources to get the most ROI for everyone involved? Not just us, our customers, our partners. And what that leads us to is the question of unstructured data. So one of the very sort of interesting pieces of, I guess, statistics or whatever that a lot of people don't realize is that upwards of 90% of enterprise data is unstructured. It's all those emails, it's all those Word documents, it's all those text files, it's all those PDFs sitting in accounting. That's all unstructured data. And the challenge with unstructured data is not only is it abundant, it's hard. You think of structured data, you think of a database, right? Your average CTO goes, oh, yeah, I have XYZ amount of petabytes in databases, and the way you access that is easy. You write a bunch of SQL queries, or there's a standard ecosystem that everybody reaches for of tools. But if I gave you a chunk of unstructured data and say, go get me answers, there's no clear answer. There's no standard set of tools that you're going to use. Someone's going to reach for regular expressions or some of those things, but what we're doing here now is applying ML. And the idea is that machine learning has a very clear path to making sense of unstructured, massive volumes of data. Part two of the story is the transformation's coming, right? Businesses used to be run like this. This is what we're moving to. And you should have started your journey a while ago, but if you haven't, that's still okay. You can still do it now, right? And the underlying theme here is the announcements you saw around AutoML, right? All these cutting edge technologies, you can apply them to your business, to your existing business process as you are on this journey of transformation. So the announcement this morning was about Iron Mountain and our partnership there. And what are we doing here? The goal is to advance automated document understanding. We're working with Iron Mountain to, with their customers' permission, digitize data and derive understanding from it. So all that dark data that's sitting stored away from years of records, literally the US corporate history, right, of the Fortune 1000, extracting valuable, today, dark data using machine learning. But as all these presentations go, right, the ML guy comes on stage and goes on about how ML is going to change the world in the future. We'll get there. That's true. But let's talk about here and now. How can you use the tools we talked about this morning and all day today and throughout next, AutoML and machine vision, to automate an existing process? So this is about here and now. This is something that you can start using today. So as one of the scenarios in the thousands we could tackle with how businesses deal with documents, the one that seems to impact the most number of businesses is, hey, I buy stuff as a part of doing business, I owe people money. Or I sell stuff and people owe me money. And these documents need to be processed. We've been doing that since 1860. This is an actual invoice from 1860. And this is a modern one. Nothing's really changed. And the reason it hasn't changed is the computer science behind making a protocol packet to have two computers talk about, hey, you owe me X, is easy. But there are too many players. The structure of that packet cannot be agreed upon. So what we've done is we've sort of fallen back to, well, we have accounts receiving and the invoice team has people that look at it and approve it, and it's a human intervention process. So let's change that, right? So what does it mean to do document understanding, right? At 10,000 feet. The thing people usually jump to is, oh, this is OCR. This is not just OCR. OCR is optical character recognition. Literally, the hello world of machine learning for any new learning data scientists is a data set called MNIST. And this data set is understanding characters. It's literally the hello world of the industry. What we're talking about here is going from that extracted text to recreating the structure that is apparent to a human that's reading the document, recreating that structure, and then putting it into a system that manages structured data and is part of a business process, right? That is truly document understanding. And at 10,000 feet, it's these 3 steps. And where OCR is literally just step 1. Okay, so let's talk about each of the pieces. Step 1, you extract the text. So Google has the Cloud Vision API. This API solves computer vision challenges and problems that are general in nature, right? It's not going to identify my business's widget A versus widget B. But if you want to identify a ship versus a boat, right? It can do that because it's a general problem. It impacts everything. This is the technology that backs Google's efforts in search. Part of this offering is an offering to do OCR. So when you use Google search, we're not just looking at the metadata around the search, right? We're looking into the images to find you relevant images. So the technology that powers that is also what powers the Vision API to do OCR. So okay, we have step 1. We give it an image, it gives us the text. Part 2 of this is that the pricing here is a game changer. I'll let the slide speak for itself, honestly, but it's pennies on the dollar, and one of the key sort of friction points in business, right? There's a reason it's hard to structure businesses on a $1 transaction, because the transaction fee completely kills any margin you have. So as you're trying to reduce your cost of transactions, reduce the friction of transactions, this becomes very important. So this basically makes the cost of transactions pennies on the dollar. All right, step 2. So we got the text out of the document. Now we got to restructure it. We said we're going to apply machine learning. That's great. Now you're going to need a data scientist. And this person will go away for 6 months, 8 months, and come back with a model. In that period, you will have spent lots and lots of money, lots and lots of time, lots and lots of engineering, and lots of organizational focus on solving this problem, where each of these is a very complex problem in itself that engineers specialize in. So we go back to our first principles. Our first principles are, that's not okay. We need to make this technology available and accessible to every developer. So we have AutoML. The idea behind AutoML is that all of this becomes one click. It becomes one API call. You give it the data, you give it the data set, and you tell it, go train. And in a couple hours, it comes back to you with a model that will have best-in-class accuracy. And then it gives you, again, a one API call way to say, go host this in a scalable way for me so that I can just make requests to it, and I don't have to worry about, well, I need the right infrastructure to do low latency inference on my model. None of that. You don't have to worry about it. You just tell us, and we host it for you. So what does AutoML Vision do in this case? AutoML Vision is what's in the parlance called a classifier. It builds you a classifier. You give it classes of training data that say, hey, here's a bunch of pictures of handbags, shoes, and hats. And you train it. And then at the end of the day, it gives you a model that when you give it a picture of a shoe, even when it hasn't seen before, but it's a shoe, a human would recognize it as a shoe, it'll tell you this is a shoe. In concept, pretty straightforward. In implementation, billions of dollars of research. So I said, it's going to give you one of the most best-in-class models. AutoML produces more accurate models with fewer parameters than practically all the other, what I would call sort of benchmark vision models today. So you've got Inception v4, you've got ResNet 152, ResNext 101, VGG 16. And you can see the red line with AutoML on top, where depending on how much time and energy spent on training it, you get more and more accuracy with fewer and fewer parameters. Now, why does this matter? This matters because I know what you're thinking, but well, if Google's going to do it, then it doesn't matter. It matters in latency and compute cost at inference time. So once the model is built, you're going to make hundreds of thousands of requests over time against it. So if a model has 10% more parameters in it, you're doing 10% more compute across hundreds and thousands of requests. So this is important. The other reason it's important, so that was sort of this axis. The other reason it's important this axis is that if you get it wrong, either your business process has a problem down the line, or now you have to employ the person that you freed up to do a better task than just scanning an invoice is now back in the loop to make sure that the computer doesn't screw up, right? So that's not OK, too. Hence, this is important. So a little bit of sort of technical errata about AutoML. So the technology powering AutoML is called learn to learn, where we've got a neural network that is effectively watching the model being built for you being trained and tweaking the training process as it goes. So effectively, sounds like a buzzword, I get it, but it's literally a model building another model is what's going on. And that's called learning to learn. And then along with that, we're doing large-scale hyperparameter tuning to give you that super accurate model without you having to do any work. If you want to discuss the internals of this, I'll be here after too. We can geek out. So next up, we got the piece for extracting the text. We got the piece for, well, vaguely we have this thing that does a classifier. Those are our two tools in our vision box. How do we put this all together? I promised that the solution here would plug into an existing business process, right? Where you're not throwing everything away. It's connecting to something real that you're using today. So what I'd like to do is invite one of our partners up. One of the ways that Google makes these things real is we work with our partners, and our partners really understand how each business is special in its own way, right? Google builds the surgeon's tool set, if you will, right, to stretch an analogy. And then our partners are the surgeons who take those tool sets and do the surgeries, make it real. And so in that vein, I'd like to invite Chandra from Deloitte to come and talk to us about how they put these things together to solve the invoice management problem. Thank you, Chandra.
Yeah, thank you, Kirat. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. So amazing technology, right? Machine learning, now with a new announcement of AutoML from Feifei, you must have heard yesterday. So why does Google need partners, right? Deloitte as a system integrator, we are very close to the business. We understand each industry, we understand the different business challenges in every line of business, and we take this technology and then we implement solutions which are very relevant for every company, every industry, every business process. And Deloitte has been working with Google for multiple years now, whether it's in the form of infrastructure as a service, whether it's in the form of analytics using BigQuery, whether it's in the form of AdSense for creating a new marketing platform for our customers to get more insights, and obviously AutoML. Before AutoML was announced, it was available to us as a partner in a beta form. But we realized the power of ML, just ML without AutoML, very earlier on, and we realized that many of our customers can leverage a true benefit, which is extremely cost effective. It can be implemented in an agile manner, not wait for 6 months or a year to see the value. So we started working with Google's machine learning team and the infrastructure team to develop this solution. So let me walk you through it, right? So now every company, right, whether you do services, whether you manufacture goods, you have to process invoices, right? To pay your vendors on time. It's part of and every vendor is unique because they all have their own branding. They have a different structure, different layout, right? So we need to be able to extract the invoice, get the business data, whether it's a material number, quantity, amount, address. You want to make sure it goes to the right address. So all this business information, which is in different format for every vendor, has to be extracted in a very accurate form and before a financial document is created, right? So very crucial business process. And let me share with you, until now, companies, whether it's a mid-sized company or large-sized company, spend millions of dollars with the commercial off-the-shelf solutions from different vendors to do the vendor invoice management, which easily cost anywhere from $2 to $4 million just from licensing. Now, on top of that, add few months of implementation, testing with your ERP. Now, every time a ERP goes through a software change, you again have to go back to that invoice management solution, do some testing, do some remediation. Every time a new vendor is incorporated to your business, you have to go through the programming all over again because they may have a completely different logo, completely different format. So it's a very, very slow process, very, very expensive process, and it does not leverage any benefits of cloud computing and machine learning. And plus, on top of all of this, it has a very high sunk cost, right? Whether you use all the features of your invoice management solution or not, you have to buy all of it, and you have to spend millions of dollars upfront. So that is why we developed this solution. Deloitte has developed this proprietary solution for automated invoice management for your S/4HANA ERP system. So S/4HANA is SAP's large enterprise resource planning solution, and we have developed this because we know SAP S/4HANA in detail. We understand the business processes. So it's going to help us, obviously, automate your invoice management. It's going to make it more efficient. It's going to be much faster life cycle from a solution perspective to scan invoices, post it to the business documents, and obviously adopt it as you go. So let's walk through a little bit in detail about the different components that are involved. So as you see, as you heard from Kirat, obviously machine learning is a very crucial component along with the Vision API. Those are the building blocks of scanning the invoice, right, to make sure we extract the right data. So our developers who are very well informed about machine learning and the coding required, so we develop our code around these two technologies. Then it has an cloud storage to store these invoices because every customer scans roughly anywhere from few thousand to several 100,000 invoices on a monthly or a quarterly basis. A lot of money, right? And you do it most of the time in a batch mode, right, for most customers. And the room for error is very small because you don't want to get an invoice inaccurately scanned, which could be for thousands of dollars to a wrong vendor. So there is a lot of money at stake. It's a real business problem, right? So cloud storage helps us to store all those invoices for audit compliance perspective for a much longer period at a very, very lower cost. And plus, it's available everywhere in the world, as long as you have a cell phone or a laptop. And obviously, S/4HANA, which is your business system, which will take that invoice, right, and then post it to the for a financial document. So now I'm going to invite Sudha, who's my colleague, who's going to decompose this architecture for you, help you through each and every process, step by step. How do we scan the invoice? How do we get the OCR data? How does the AP clerk gets to review that data and then post it into SAP? So Sudha, over to you.
Thank you, Chandra. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sudha Kari. I am the Global SAP S/4HANA Center of Excellence lead at Deloitte. And we've been working very closely with Google on building the solution. So I wanted to take a step further, get into the real details, and kind of help you understand what the solution is, what components are involved, details about it, and followed by a demo. So let's just kind of get started. So there are essentially three main steps to the solution. The step number one is uploading of invoice. It's kind of obvious, right? So you have your invoices which need to be scanned and uploaded. One important information for you to note here is that the invoices that are uploaded are stored in Google Cloud Storage, which is obviously running on Google Cloud Platform. And the scanning of invoices can either be done from your laptops, mobile phone, or any device. So all those capabilities are built in. Now, third important thing for you to kind of know is when you talk about invoice management, you're obviously talking volume. So every customer, any corporate customer would have tens and thousands of invoices that get uploaded every day. So that's where the upload functionality comes in. Now, next important part is the intelligent extraction of these invoices. So you have got these invoices which are uploaded and ready. How do you actually understand the information there? And there are, again, 3 steps to this intelligent text extraction. The step number one is using the Vision API to actually extract the detail from the invoice, right? So for that, we are using Google's machine learning vision API, extremely capable API tool there. We have seen it work with different kinds of invoices. I mean, invoices often have scribbled text, text manually written. All those kind of invoices also work extremely well with the vision API. Then the next component is, how do you know, now you have extracted the details, how do you know what information is where? So for that, we have YAML config, which kind of comes into play, which helps us in understanding what information is where in the invoice. So that's step number 2. Now, the third thing is, you have extracted the information. How do you know that this particular invoice belongs to is a template from a particular vendor? How do you connect this? That's where the third component, which is AutoML, comes in. And when we developed the solution, we've been developing that over a period of time. We had used traditional ML, and we also used AutoML. And once we started using AutoML, we actually saw that there was a good increase in confidence percentage. So when I show you the demo, you'd actually get a peek at it. But with AutoML, we were really able to enhance the solution. So with combination of these three, extraction of the solution and then classification of the solution, you're actually able to take this unstructured data and convert into a more structured data. Now, the third component here is, now we have extracted the invoice, we have all the information. This information is posted into SAP. And it's not just plain posting of invoice that I'm talking about. There are also business rules, validations, and checks that come into picture, and workflows to kind of make sure that the data that is getting uploaded is in fact accurate and is business ready. So those are really the three components which come into play in this whole process. So I wanted to kind of get you guys a little bit of a visual feel of how this is happening. So what you see in the background is how the text extraction is working. This is where the Vision API is looking at the components of the invoice, and then is extracting all the information which is there in the invoice in different blocks, as you can see over here. Okay, so once the extraction is done, then YAML config kind of comes into picture. This is like a really user-friendly, I would say, easy to understand, where you would look at the invoice and you're able to say what information is where in the invoice. Now let's get to the third part, which is the core part, which is, now you have extracted the information in the invoice. How are you actually going to identify that this information belongs to, corresponds to this particular template? And that's when AutoML comes in. So as you can see here, there are 3 different invoices which are of completely different format from 3 different vendors. So all this information is getting fed into AutoML, and when a new invoice comes in, you are able to identify that this invoice corresponds to this particular template. So, I mean, that's how the whole thing is working. We have trained the model with multiple invoices and really good results that we are able to see. And that's what I wanted to show you once we get into the demo mode. I think that's pretty much it. Let's quickly switch to the demo. Yeah, OK, thank you. OK, so let me introduce the screen a little bit to those of you who are not very familiar with SAP. Actually, a quick show of hands. How many of you have used SAP, are SAP customers, have interacted have worked with SAP? OK, yeah, OK, thank you. That kind of gives me an idea. So this is, for those of you who do not know, this is called SAP Fiori tiles. These tiles are essentially called as, this is SAP's new user interface, and the tiles are called as the Fiori tiles. Really convenient, easy to use. And we have developed this user interface using SAP's cloud platform. So what you're seeing essentially here is SAP cloud platform there. So the step number 1 that we have here is scanning of invoice, like how I explained. So we take these invoices, we scan them. This, the demo would show you the invoices in an online mode, but this can very well be batched. when we're using tens and thousands of invoices. Okay. So these are the different components. We have got the scanned invoice. And I also wanted you to look at the cloud storage where this invoice actually gets stored. OK, so here is a look at the invoice that we're actually going to upload. So I'm going to take one invoice, we'll take it all the way through, then I can show you another invoice which is in a completely different format as well. So take the invoice, a more clearer look at it. So all the information there, we've got the item details. So we get into the cloud platform screen, a quick button there, which we click on, and we select the invoice, and it's all successfully uploaded. So once this is uploaded, you can actually go to the cloud platforms, and you should be able to look at the invoice as well. So this is where it is. All the invoices are going and sitting in the background. Next is a viewing of scanned invoices. OK, I want to pause here and kind of explain you this screen a little bit. So what just happened is we had the invoice which we scanned there and put it in Google Cloud Storage. Now, in the lookup invoice screen, that invoice shows up, right? And what you're seeing over here is the extracted information from the invoice. The third screen, as I play, is the actual image of the invoice. So once we click on the next button, let me just, yeah. So this is the header details of the invoice. There you see the confidence percentage 95, which quickly flashed there. That actually shows the improved percentage that we got once we started using AutoML. So this is the invoice that we scanned. All the information there. And let me just pause over here so that we can actually absorb this information completely. The left was the invoice that got uploaded. And towards the right is the actual invoice that was uploaded. And what you see here in the middle is the information that got extracted from this invoice and is now right over here, right? So this is the three-step, very, I would say, intuitive user interface. Another important point I want to really emphasize is I'm showing you this whole entire thing in an online mode. But when you are dealing with tens and thousands of invoices, you would actually batch this. So this is not, I mean, you wouldn't really be clicking on a submit when processing these invoices. What you essentially do is we have the confidence percentages, the thresholds, which you can set. For example, you can say that anything over 93% or 95%, whatever you may, all those invoices would go through automatically. If it's less than that, then potentially you can manually look at those invoices. So those kind of thresholds and parameters can be sent to make this a much more automated process. So the PO information, the details are kind of there. That's the key. Yeah, once we come back in, the item information, the confidence percentage, again, really good there. We click on submit. So here is what happens. As soon as you click on submit, I want to pause here and kind of, so this is the invoice number of the invoice which is actually posted in SAP, right? So this invoice immediately is kind of going in and posting in SAP. So essentially what we do is, the screen that you saw previously is the link. Now this is out-of-box SAP app, Fiori app, which is provided for supplier invoices. So the invoice that we just created automatically got posted in SAP. So getting to that screen and looking at this particular invoice, let me continue. So the invoice which we copied and pasted there, you see the document is already posted. We can get into SAP. You can look at the invoice, the item details, tax, payment, everything got populated. And even the attachment is also there. So this is the invoice, as you recall, is what we had uploaded. Yep. OK. So I know that, yeah. So the previous screen that we saw was a SAP S/4HANA screen. I know that many of you are ECC customers as well. So we also wanted to kind of show this, that the same thing, the invoice that is created is posted in the backend as well to kind of get you to see how the ECC user interface or the backend GUI would look like. The same invoice, we put that in, and you're able to get into that. And same information you see in the backend, SAP backend too. The item details, everything accurate. You have the vendor details as well. And then now we are able to look at the attachment. So click on the attachment list. It takes you to the attachment there. Open it, and then there you go. That's the image that you just scanned and uploaded. Yeah. We wanted to kind of get in and show the process for a different invoice as well. I mean, here is another invoice, and I'll try to kind of quickly run through so that you get a feeler of. So this is the invoice. Again, similar process, getting in, uploading the invoice, and you would see that a completely different invoice with a completely different format. Again, we were able to upload to the same application, is able to read, is able to understand, right? So this was pretty much it. I mean, this is really the crux of the solution. If you want to see a live demo of it, we are showing a live demo of it in our Deloitte booth. You're most welcome to come in and then get a live look and feel of how the solution is looking. So at this point of time, I wanted to hand it over to Kirat to conclude.
Thank you, Sudha. Can we switch back to the slides, please? All right, so what did you just see? You saw in summary, we did the three pieces, right? We extracted the text, we restructured it back to a form that is expected by, again, tying it all together to an existing business process system. So the takeaway from all of this is that the technology you're seeing being announced all around you here, it's all ML, AI, oh my God, it's the future. It's real today. You can connect these, like ML people like to do demos like hot dog, not hot dog, show you these abstract things, right? And my goal here, if you take away one thing, is that this tech can be applied to your existing business process today. All it takes is a little creative thinking around, okay, well, what is a painful point that I deal with every day that either needs lots of human people doing a light touch sort of yes or no, or is it just a very step-through process that just involves understanding unstructured data? Those kinds of problems are solvable today. You just have to sort of sit down and think about, wait a minute, what if I were to apply ML to this problem? How would I solve it?